happiness, unity and justice may be established amongst us all. Amen. Please be seated. Manningham City Council acknowledges the Wurundjeri people as the traditional custodians of the land we now know as Manningham. We pay our respects to Wurundjeri elders past and present and value the ongoing contribution to the cultural heritage of Manningham. Council would also like to acknowledge the contribution made to Manningham over the years of people of diverse backgrounds and cultures. I welcome all members of the public here tonight to this council meeting who have come along to observe proceedings. I also recognise and welcome former Manningham Councillor and Mayor, Mr Jim Grivastopoulos. Welcome. I'd like to advise those present that tonight's meeting is being audio and video recorded. All care will be taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor of the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the gallery, it is assumed your consent is given in the event that your voice and/or image is broadcast. All council meetings are governed by a meeting procedure local law. I'll introduce each item of business as listed on the agenda by calling it by number and by reading the title. I will then call for a mover and a seconder of a motion on the item before opening any debate. Only councillors are able to join the debate on an item. Councillors may adopt the officer's recommendation in the report or propose amendments and supplementary motions. I'd like to draw your attention to item 7 on tonight's agenda, public question time, which provides people with an opportunity to ask questions of the council. Questions must be registered prior to the commencement of the meeting to be asked. If we do not have the information at hand to provide a meaningful response, the question may be taken on notice and a response provided in writing. I would also stress that I will deal with a maximum of 2 questions per person and 2 questions on any one issue. If you have more than 2 questions, please submit these additional questions in writing to Council through the normal channels. Item number 2, apologies and requests for leave of absence. There are no apologies. Item number 3, prior notification of conflict of interest. I'd like to advise that I've received 2 written disclosures of conflict of interest for tonight's meeting from Councillor Andrew Conlon for item 9.2 concerning planning application PLN 18/0212 at 115 Tyndalls Road, Donvale, the interest being an indirect interest due to conflicting duty, and Councillor Dot Haynes for item 10.1 concerning the 2019-2020 Community Grant Program allocations, the interest being, again, an indirect interest due to conflicting duty. Are there any other notifications of conflict of interest? No. Okay, thank you. Item number 4, confirmation of minutes. Do I have a mover? Councillor Conlon.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council held on 28th of May 2019 and the special meeting of Council held on 4th of June 2019 be confirmed.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Zafiropoulos. Accordingly, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. Item number 5, presentations. The Queen's Birthday Honours List. We do very well here in Manningham with Queen's Birthday Honours. And tonight I have 4 to mention. We'd like to acknowledge the following Manningham residents who've received an OAM medal in the General Division in the Queen's Birthday 2019 Honours List. Mr Frederick Richard Gibbs of Doncaster for services to the community of Balwyn. Mr David Victor Jens from Lower Templestowe for service to education and to the community of Manningham. Mr Douglas Anthony Seymour of Warrandyte for service to the community of Warrandyte. And Mr Donald Philip Tregoning of Templestowe for services to tennis. So congratulations to the 4 recipients. We're very honoured and we're very pleased with your award. Number 6, petitions. We have one petition today from the Freeway Golf Course. Do I have a mover? Councillor Galbally.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to move that this petition that was received by Manningham Council on a Harp Golf Club letterhead, and it was duly signed by their president, Judith Boyce, who I might add was also a long-standing councillor and previous mayor of the city of Boroondara. On this motion, it has 226 signatures
Point of order,
requesting that Manningham
Point
Council...
of order, Madam Mayor.
Just one moment, Councillor Galbally. Yes, Councillor McLeish.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. I haven't actually heard a motion read at this point. I think the process is we need to have a motion read and seconded before we can actually go ahead with the process.
I was reading the motion out.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so accordingly, I'll let you proceed, Councillor Galbally, with the motion.
Thank you. There were a total of 226 signatures requesting that Manningham Council preserve the integrity of the Freeway Golf Course by contributing land for this purpose, to be tabled for response. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Zafiropoulos. I note the petition and I will respond immediately. Oh, yes. I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried. Thank you. I note the petition and I will respond immediately on behalf of Manningham Council. We've received today a petition from patrons from the Freeway Golf Course. The petition claims that Manningham Council is not being sincere in assisting them to maintain the integrity of their golf course. They believe we are showing a reluctance to contribute our community land for this purpose. And they are right, because Manningham Council will not surrender its community land, nor does it have to assist the Freeway Golf Course to retain the integrity of its course. Notwithstanding the Freeway Golf Course will lose some of its land due to the North East Link project, the integrity of the course can be maintained within the boundaries that it has been given. Option 5 of the North East Link project's 7 concept options paper provides that the golf course can fit within the boundaries, maintaining the 18 holes as it has a spare driving range and the par will simply go from 68 to 66. The options sought by the golf course, namely 3, 6 and 7 in that paper, involved displacing the Yarra Bowman Archery Club and the Doncaster Aero Modelers Club, both clubs of which have recently celebrated 50 years at Bulleen Park. There is nothing in the golf course's proposals to accommodate them. More so, this land is future-proofing for our children's sporting needs. There is a dearth of flat, open space in Manningham. We are a municipality of rolling hills. Our flat, open space is largely along the riverbed. The proposal put by the golf course will mean that our community will lose access to the Yarra River foreshore. It will lose public open space. It will lose walking and cycling tracks, which we will not surrender. Time and time again, our residents have told us through our surveys, most recently the 1,000 Voices, that the thing they treasure most about Manningham is its public open space. That's the reason why they live here. The proposals by the golf course lock up this space and make it unavailable for all of the community to enjoy. And we do not accept that. Thank you. I now move to number 7, item number 7, which is public question time. We've received a question from Mr. Frank Prowse. Is he present? Yes, he is. Excellent. Mr. Prowse, would you like to come forward to the microphone, please? Yes, and you've got 2 minutes to make a brief introductory statement, if you wish, before asking your question. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Frank Prowse. I submitted a 4-page submission on the lighting at Doncaster Athletic Track. My main concern is who is responsible for liability if any injuries at the track while the current lighting is turned on. All training, coaching, competition must be designed to prevent injury. As a coach and competitor, I am required to provide a safe environment for all the people I train and coach. With the 2012 and 2016 reports stating the light deficiencies, I have been advised that I need to have the liability factor resolved so I can train athletes or compete in events at the track. My question is, with the current lighting reports of 2012 and 2016 stating that Doncaster Athletic Track lighting does not meet the minimum levels to conduct evening or night meetings, who will accept the liability for any injuries that may occur during training or competition when the current lighting system is in use? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Prowse. Mr Prowse, thank you for submitting this question before the meeting. And our officers had a preliminary look at this question, and I've been advised that we will be taking it on notice because we'll need to do some further investigation, and we will respond to you in writing in the near future. So thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've also received some public questions from 2 more people. The first is Campbell McLean, who's the president of Doncaster Athletics Club. So, Mr McLean, would you like to come to the lectern? And again, you have 2 minutes if you wish to make an introductory statement before asking your questions.
Thank you. It's McLennan.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm with the Athletics Club. One of my questions is not so much to do with the lighting, but something that's come to our attention while we've been looking into it. Excuse me. Given the new Waldo Precinct Management Plan incorporates the former Rice Reserve Management Plan, excuse me, but excludes the Tom Kelly Athletics Track, what happens to the action items that were associated with the athletics track that are now outside the new Waldo precinct, such as the toilet upgrades, car park surfacing, lighting upgrade, and the lighting upgrade for the Tom Kelly Athletics Track facility?
Thank you. I'll refer that question to the Director of City, or the Director of City Services? But it will first start with a response from our CEO, Mr Andrew Day.
Thank you very much for the question, Mr McLennan. And obviously we've just received that question.
Yeah.
We'll come back to you with a detailed response. But quite simply, any of the projects that are not contained within the Waldo Precinct Management Plan will have to be considered as a part of our general capital works program going forward.
Okay. Mr Harrison, the Director of City Services, would you like to? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, excellent. Okay. And now you have a second question, Mr
Yes,
McLennan.
a second question, which is something that we've realised through the process, not necessarily just for us, but something that could help other people or sporting clubs or community groups.
Yep.
Given the justifications for the rejection of our budget submission and finding those justifications were already in place prior to being encouraged to follow the budget process, would the council be inclined to review the budget process to provide more clarity to the community and avoid the time and effort with submissions that ultimately have no chance of immediate success?
Okay, thank you for your question, and I'll refer it to our CEO, Mr Andrew Day.
Thanks.
Thank you for the question again, Mr McLennan. In terms of reviewing the budget process, we'll do that every year. We routinely do that every year from an officer perspective and also in conjunction with the council. And in relation to your submission and the submission from the Athletics Club, I can absolutely guarantee that that submission was considered in detail by the council with advice from the officers. So it wasn't a wasted effort. It was certainly the subject of some robust discussion from the councillors.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I have a question, if I may.
Yes, Councillor McLeish.
I have a couple, actually. So Madam Mayor, my understanding is that we have some political promises made to fund certain projects as a result of the election. And those promises are now turning into government department action. And part of that action is you lodge an application. That application is considered by the department. Then eventually someone gets a letter saying you've won your grant. So I would like to know if we've received any letters from government departments advising us of successful applications for the grants that have been announced in the election campaign by the federal government.
I'll direct that question to our CEO. No? Oh no, our Director of City Planning, Mr Harrison. City Services, sorry, Mr Harrison.
Through you, Madam Mayor. No, the answer is no. The short answer is no. We have not received any letters from any government departments at this stage. We have lodged our applications under due process for the various lighting grants, and we are yet to receive anything back.
Thank you. And a follow-up question to that. Are the officers aware at any time when Manningham Council has received a grant from government for a project that we have not then, if we've ever failed to proceed with a project? I presume that we've always proceeded with projects for which we've received grants.
Oh, how long do you want to go back, Councillor McLeish?
Within the memory of the officers here is far enough for me, Madam Mayor.
Okay. All right, well, I'll put that question then to the Director of City Services, Mr Harrison.
Again, through you, Madam Mayor, to the best of my knowledge, no, I can't think of any time when we haven't accepted a grant.
So you would expect if we received a grant for that project, then we would proceed with it at some point?
I think that is a question for the council to determine.
Thank you.
Meeting as a group of 9, as they are now.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for indulging me.
I'll also direct the question for clarification to our CEO, Mr Day.
So I just wanted to provide one clarification too in terms of the correspondence that we have received. So we have absolutely received correspondence in relation to the fact that the government has acknowledged the announcement by Kevin Andrews during the election period. What we are still waiting for is confirmation that the Minister has finally approved all of those grants. We've had conversations with them as early as last week to confirm where they are at, and understandably they are under quite a bit of pressure at the moment and quite busy. We have not received a deed of release or indeed final confirmation from the Minister.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have one final person to ask some questions, which is Mr Paul Reynolds. He is the President of the Doncaster Little Athletic Centre.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have two questions relating to the Tom Kelly Athletics track. So the first was just wondering whether any of the staff or councillors have in fact visited the athletics track on a dark evening to have a first-hand view of what the current lighting provides us with the training and for competition events that are held there, because in some of our disciplines it is quite unsafe to actually participate in them in the evenings, and therefore it limits our ability to run either competition or training in events such as javelin and high jump, and also when you're doing hurdles, to go from a very well-lit track under the flood lighting to an area where the lighting is quite dim, so your eyes don't have time to adjust. If you're sprinting down the track, you're limited in your ability to clearly see what the obstacle is in front of you when you're trying to jump a hurdle.
Well, I can start, because I think I've done high jump duty on the twilight session for Little Laughs about 10 times, because my kids did the LAFs for about 7 years.
And we normally try and get that done early in the
Yeah,
evening.
you do, yeah.
before-
So
before
Bulleen
it gets dark.
Templestowe has the high jump
Yeah.
duty and always has. So I've been sitting at that desk recording the results a number of times. Yeah, so certainly, personally, as a councillor, I've experienced the lighting.
But you'd agree that we don't run high jump once it's dark,
Yeah, once it's dark, it's
Yeah.
closed, yeah.
correct? Because of the insufficient lighting.
Otherwise, I'll direct the question to the CEO, because you've asked, have any staff
Yeah.
or
Well,
or councillors? Well, certainly one has.
We would
Yeah.
welcome any or all of you to come down.
I think, yeah, most.
In fact, all of
Yep.
us have been there.
All of you? So Councillor Goff, you've been there at night? Yeah? Many times, okay? Yep, and Councillor Haynes?
It's a regional facility, yes, and I've had family come over from everywhere.
Yep, okay. Councillor Zafiropoulos, have you seen the tracks at night? Yes, okay. Councillor Chen? Yep. Yep. Councillor Galbally, Councillor Kleinert, Councillor McLeish and Councillor Conlon with your 8 children. No doubt you've been there sometime at night many times. So you do have 9 councillors who are familiar with that track and have been there in the evenings.
Right.
Yeah.
Good, so
Assured that we've got personal experience, all of us.
hopefully you can see our issues then.
Yes.
That's good.
Certainly. Would you like to proceed question 2?
Thank you.
Thank you.
The second question was, given some of our neighbouring councils have spent millions of dollars upgrading their athletics track facilities and others have commitments in place for significant upgrades in the next year to 2 years, what is the council's aspirations for the Tom Kelly athletics track moving forward? I ask that question of councillors because there's significant risk that athletes will move away from their local clubs, being Doncaster Little Athletics and Doncaster Senior Athletics Club, to other athletics clubs outside the Manningham area because those clubs are offering far superior facilities compared to what we've got. Our track used to have a very good reputation as being one of the leading tracks. Unfortunately, over the last few years, there's been significant dollars spent around us at Nunawading, at Ringwood, at Diamond Valley. So, yeah, I'm just wondering what the aspirations are of the council for the track moving forward.
Someone in government to give us more grants?
Well, Mr Reynolds, I think I can speak on behalf of all 9 councillors that our aspirations is to have the best possible facilities for all our community within, generally speaking, within the city of Manningham. We do have, as you are aware, we have a management plan for the Tom Kelly track. Yep, so we have that documentation.
Unfortunately, we've seen no progress on that management plan since it was incepted in 2012.
So I do hear you. I might just, that's a further question, but I might just put that, Mr Harrison, Director of City Services, in relation to the plan, the management plan.
Through you, Madam Mayor, don't have that
Yep.
level of intimate knowledge to know what has been actually completed in terms of the management plan to date. But as the CEO said previously, there is a management plan in place. Mm-hmm. It is the works associated with that are considered within the budget process each year as when formulating the capital works program, and they're prioritised against other demands, other needs within the municipality. So I know that they're in there in the process, but where they sit in the hierarchy in terms of what year, what timeline, I don't have that in front of me.
So you can take that on notice.
Mayor, I'm fairly sure you'll find that in this year's budget, there is $1.24 million scheduled for implementing aspects of the Rochex Reserve Management Plan.
Well, yes, that is correct. So you would be familiar, Mr Reynolds, that they're upgrading the pavilion
Yes.
Then that will be about 1.2 million. We're moving the senior athletics club down from the hill into the pavilion. Correct. So that's a significant investment that we're doing this financial year. So,
Correct, but
yeah.
to be done, not having been completed.
Yeah, and it will be done because it is in the budget, and
In the coming
in the coming financial year. So, I trust that our community will be pleased with that work, and we will, as a group of 9 councillors, continue to do the best we possibly can for our community, including our young children and others who participate in athletics.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you everyone for your questions, and we will now move to item 8, which is admissions for urgent business on the agenda, and there are no items for urgent business. So we move to item 9, which is the planning permit applications. 9.1, planning application PLA 19/0038 at Westfield, Doncaster, 619 Doncaster Road, Doncaster, to amend the planning permit PLN 18/0772 to make alterations to the awning and finishes of level 2 and reconfiguration of the level 4 car parking area. Do I have a mover? Councillor Chen.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move that the officer's recommendation be adopted with dot point 7 amended to read: before the development starts, an amended landscaping plan must be submitted to the responsible authority for approval. The plan must be generally in accordance with the approved site layout plan and the concept landscape plan decision plan prepared by Center Group, project number D3121, revision A, dated 14 November 2018, but modified to show.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Haynes. Thank you. Would the mover like to speak on the motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor. The application before Council is to amend its planning permit issued in February. The amendment mainly involves alteration to the awning on level 2 and the reconfiguration of the level 4 car parking area, including the addition of 2 full kiosks and removal of 1 car parking space. The application also proposed to amend Condition 7 to submit the amended landscaping plan before the commencement of landscaping works. It is normal practice for Council to require the applicant to submit landscaping plan before the development starts. The applicant's request means when there will be the amended landscaping plan will not be available when the development starts. It will only be available when the applicant is prepared to commence the landscaping works. If this is allowed, I'm afraid that it will create a loophole. The landscaping may be delayed or may not start even after the construction work completes. I have received again and again unhappy comments from residents about the high-density development in some parts of our suburbs and in Doncaster Hill. These developments have removed many of our beloved trees and causing congestions. It is said that the suburb has lost its soul. Even under the current planning scheme, we cannot stop all developments, but Council at least can still apply the basic principles and basic conditions to our planning applications to protect the amenity of the community. So for any development, the community needs to have confidence that all is in order before the development starts. It applies to small projects as well as large developments. So I ask the Council's support to my alternative motion. So the applicant needs to submit its amended landscaping plan before development commences, just like other applications. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Would the seconder like to speak?
No, I think she's, just one thing to add, the awning size, see, the answer's yes. Okay, but councillor Chen has done a great job, so I don't have much more to add, except that the awning size and changes will still, thankfully, the report states that we'll still cover and shelter the lift entry and that there will be no amenity issues. So I ask that every councillor support this motion.
Thank you, councillor. Are there any councillors who wish to speak against the motion? No. Accordingly, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. 9.2. Planning application PLN 18/0212 at 115 Tyndalls Road, Donvale, for the construction of a multi-purpose hall and sports hall associated with the existing education centre and including vegetation removal at Donvale Christian College. Do I have a conflict of interest declared? Yes.
Councillors, I would wish to disclose that I have a conflict of interest in this item. The interest being an indirect interest due to conflicting duty. I'll be leaving the meeting room for the duration of this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Conlon.
That's the Doncaster Christian College speech.
That's the one we'll do.
He's certainly left. Excellent. Do I have a mover?
Madam Mayor, I move as
Thank
the
you,
officer's
Councillor Goff.
recommendation.
Oh, thank you, councillor Goff. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Haynes. Thank you. Would the mover like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I rise to support this motion of the developments at Doncaster Christian College. It is a rather large college, as we all know, that services quite a number of people that live in our community, and it is growing, and its needs are I suppose, expanding, and its expectations of its school community are expanding. And as such, it has for many years had a plan that has been signed off by council, basically, as a master plan, similar to what we've done with Shoppingtown, with regards to its future expansion. And in that, it has outlined where the expansion should occur and all the rest. And this particular application is in accordance with its zone, which is a special use zone 3, and it is within the envelopes that have been identified within that master plan to build this particular building. You look at the conditions there, and it's not only has it gone through conditions that have been put into this particular application with council officers in all their departments with drainage and vegetation and things like that, but also DWELP have actually put some figures into there, and also some stuff for noise, because that has been an issue in the past, especially with the wind generator, which was causing quite a bout of noise at one stage and was stopped operating out of hours. But that's irrelevant to this application, and also the CFA have had their input into it. So councillors, this is within what their master plan says that they can do, and it is creating a great facility, a mixed-use facility, that is going to put a lot of activity in there and give a great point for General Assembly of the whole Christian school. So I support this application.
Thank you, councillor Goff. Would the seconder like to speak? Councillor Haynes.
For the purposes of consistency, I'll say no, but yes, I do. One question I have, is it true that there are no objections raised in relation to this application?
I'll put that question to the Director of City Planning and Community, Mr. Karumbis.
Through you, that's correct. There were no objections.
Okay, thank you, and I have nothing further to ask or mention then. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Haynes. Are there any speakers who wish to speak against the motion? Are there any other speakers? Councillor McLeish.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I can see a lot of merit in what's proposed in this particular application. It's a great enhancement to the sporting facilities within the school. The concern I have with it is purely and simply that of height. We have at its peak a 20 metres tall building that's being built in the grounds of this school. That's a fairly substantial building. Up until relatively recently, it was rather difficult to get buildings above tree height in this area. But there's been a very interesting change to our planning scheme that's gone through in the last few weeks that allows this sort of thing to happen now. That was done by the department. But in the end, this proposal has a lot of merit. I just have to express my reservations that we should not be having buildings of 20 metres tall in this zone. We shouldn't be having them in the low density residential zone. We shouldn't be having them in the rural conservation zone. They're not appropriate. Yes, the setbacks in this site are very large. Yes, the building is in the middle of the site. But you can stand at the head of the valley and look through this site, and what you are going to see is a very, very large building. It is not appropriate, and it's going to encourage more substantial development being proposed on other blocks within this zone. I don't think it's the right thing for us to be doing, but we don't. It's very difficult to see a means by which that this proposal could be refused solely on those grounds.
Thank you, Councillor. Now, as the councillor didn't speak against the motion, there is no right of reply, but you have a question, Councillor Goff.
I have a couple of questions.
You have a couple, yes?
I have a concern that this actually could go into the low-density residential area. Is Special Use Zone 3 the same as low-density residential?
I'll put that question to the Director of City Planning and Community, Mr Karumbis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you. No, look, they're very different zones. The special use zone is a tailor-made zone for that site, and it doesn't apply to any other site.
Thank you. Have another question? Councillor Goff.
And is one of the reasons for this height the very fact that it is on a hillside, and therefore at one side of the building it will be under a 10-metre height, and because of the slope of the land, if you cut the floors out, it becomes this higher building? Is that, in a nutshell, what happens to this building?
I'll put that question again to the Director of City Planning and Community, Mr Karumbis.
Madam Mayor, that's correct.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, accordingly, I will now put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. If Mr Conlon could be asked to re-enter, we will move to the next item. Welcome back, Councillor Conlon.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
Now move to item 9.3, which is planning application PLN 18/0671 at Tullamore, Doncaster, from 463 to 535 Doncaster Road, Doncaster, for construction of a part 6-storey and part 7-storey residential apartment building with basement car parking, brackets, over 2 basement levels, end of brackets, and associated removal of vegetation. Do I have a mover? Councillor Haynes.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Conlon? Excellent. Would the mover like to speak?
Madam Mayor, this has been obviously part of the Tullamore developments for a long time, and this one was definitely going to be done. It's along Doncaster Road, and as we see, there are already a number of these buildings that are part 6 and part 7 storey along the Tullamore estate. This is just an additional building. There are also some great conditions that the officers have been able to get extra. With this one, they've got some trees that the arborists report that are going to be retained, and the new amended plans will have to show that, and a number of other amended plans to do with additional visitor spaces and many other finishes that will be better than what was submitted to council. So I want to thank the officers for their work on this and to get a better outcome that was going to be achieved. So I just will ask that all councillors support this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. Would the seconder like to speak?
Nothing further.
Thank you. Are there any speakers against the motion?
Question?
I have a question. Councillor Zafiropoulos.
My understanding is that the development plan set a maximum of 5 stories facing Doncaster Road. This is 6 stories. What was the basis for us allowing this non-compliance of the development plan?
I'll put that question to, yes, the Director of City Planning and Community, Mr Karumbis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, the planning scheme provides a height control, but it's not a maximum height control. It's a performance-based control, and council has got the discretion to consider development above that height based on the topography of the land and the location and what's around it. So in this instance, the officers are recommending that that height as proposed is acceptable in its context.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Chen, you'd like to speak in favour or just to speak? Just to speak. Yes, certainly. Councillor Chen.
I have reservation about the trees, and the proposal proposed to remove 2 trees that are yellow boxes, 20 years old trees. And thank you for the officer's work. One can be retained, but unfortunately the other one that is set to be set in the middle of the floor plan, so it cannot be retained. But I just feel a bit disappointed that because the applicant's own assessment, flora and fauna assessment in 2014, identified that those trees, 2 trees, will not be removed. So I am disappointed with that, and given that the Doncaster has less and less mature trees, and every single tree is very valuable in terms of our Doncaster area and to the Doncaster residents. But at least I get some comfort of the conditions imposed by our officers, that there will be vegetation offsets imposed as a condition to the planning scheme. But I really cannot put myself to support it 100%, and I also know that I can't oppose it simply because of the loss of 1 tree. But I still reserve my very disappointment about this application not to retain the tree as initially identified in their own assessment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Are there any other speakers? No. Accordingly, I will put there was no speaker against the motion. So accordingly, I will put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Abstaining? Yep. Motion carried. You can't abstain. No, abstaining is counted as voting against. So you can't abstain. All right. In that case, I will re-put the motion.
Councillor Chen could leave the room, but she's not here for the vote, but she can't.
All right. I will put the motion. All those in favour? Yes? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. All right. We now move to 9.4, which is planning application PLN 18/0615 at 124 to 128 Manningham Road, Bulleen, for the use and development of a 4-storey building comprising childcare and medical centre uses, plus 16 dwellings and associated basement and sub-basement car parking, and altered access to a road in a road zone category 1. Do I have a mover? Councillor Goff.
Madam Mayor, I move the officer's recommendation.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kleinert. Would the mover like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I rise to speak in support of this particular application. This is an application on Manningham Road, not very far actually from Bulleen Plaza, and it is, Madam Mayor, on a sizable piece of land of 1,760 square metres. However, it's a fairly intensive use of this particular land, even though it is quite large and it does front up onto the main road. Not only are there 16 apartments, but there's a medical centre with 3 practitioners and also a 92 childcare centre with 18 staff. that are going to be in that particular building. And so the actual parking really, even though it does cater for what's there, it really just caters for the people that work there and no one else that visits. However, it is in an area that is in our DD08. It is there for the higher development, and I think it was around 11 metres or something was the height, but that included the metres that you need for a lift above. I think I read there somewhere in the report. Madam Mayor, this will be, I suppose, a very useful addition because we've said that's where we want the density. We are very spoilt in Manningham, Madam Mayor, with the amount of doctors, clinics and surgeries that we have, and I think actually Manningham per capita might be one of the highest. In fact, it would be an interesting statistic to work out whether we've got more doctors in our municipality than any other, because there are lots around. Having said that, it's a wonderful new asset for this. However, I do have a subsequent motion to this with regard to the amenity of the people living around in surrounding streets, and it's with regard to car parking. So when this goes through, I would like to move a motion. I'll foreshadow the moving of a motion with regard to the amenity of the people that are surrounding this.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Would the seconder like to speak? Nothing further? Yes. Are there any movers against the are there any speakers against the motion? No. Accordingly, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. Councillor Goff, you have a subsequent motion.
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor, and that is that Council undertake a parking plan in Nirvana Crescent and Lincoln Drive, Bulleen, to safeguard the amenity of the people living in this area.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kleinert. Would the mover like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. When I look at this particular development and see it's on the busy Manningham Road, and I look at these two side streets, now we have been building on Manningham Road there quite a number of high-density developments, the other side of Nirvana Crescent, and indeed that has caused angst for people who are living in there with the ability to park and to park in their street, and so therefore that street really needs to be looked at again. And again, if I look at Lincoln Drive, now if anyone knows Bulleen, Lincoln Drive is a link road. Actually it's spelled differently, but it is a link road between Bulleen Road and Manningham Road, and it basically cuts a triangle into there. And so anyone that's a resident of the area knows this particular route through Bulleen. And indeed, it's not necessarily a dangerous street, but it is a busy street. And therefore, cars parked in that street do have an effect on people's ability to get around and some traffic flow, and presents danger. And indeed, for the people that are living, if you look at Manningham Road, if you don't know, it drops down now. So there's a very steep, that road going up to Manningham Road, it's very steep also. And so I understand that this development in its design has had an area for people to drop their children off. They must be dropped off in that area. That was what it's designed for, and they must drop off in that area. And the people that are using the doctor's surgeries will obviously be using that, because again, Manningham Road has a bus lane, and we have a full suite of vehicular traffic going along there. So again, parking on the side of the road really probably isn't the road. So this development, in its wisdom, needs to take care of the people visiting this site, rather than imposing the impacts of their development onto existing surrounding people that are living and have been living in those streets for many years, and them being able to not access in and out of their driveways or park in their street or do anything. So I think that is very important that we protect it, and it's because of that I think it's a must to actually have that particular study. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Goff. Would the seconder like to speak? No? Are there any speakers against the motion? No? Accordingly, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried.
And I've got the motion here.
Yes, you have. Excellent.
There it is.
Good boy. Thank you. Okay, we now move to item 10, which is City Planning and Community, and 10.1, which is the 2019-2020 Community Grants Program allocations.
Oh, Madam Mayor?
Yes. Councillor Haynes.
Okay. Councillors, I wish to disclose that I have a conflict of interest in this item. The interest being an indirect interest due to perceived conflict of duty. I will be leaving the meeting room for the duration of this matter.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Okay, for item 10.1, do I have a mover? Councillor Kleinert.
That the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Zafiropoulos. Would the mover like to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor. So the 2019 Community Grants Program is aligned with the basic council plan and also aligns with the Generation 2030 Community Plan and the Healthy City Strategy 2017-2021. This basically, the community grant seeks to improve the welfare and the quality of life of our Manningham residents. And in this year's draft budget, it's just shy of $1 million of grants that are being allocated. It's 807,000, yada, yada, yada. I think it's wonderful to see many organisations having an opportunity to seek grants. There are 4 grants: community partnerships, community development, arts, culture, and also small grants. I think there was something like 44 applications received in one category, 29 were able to be fulfilled, and it's quite a vast range of community groups that apply for these. I think it's a great thing that we're able to provide that to our community, that they can provide great services to make Manningham one of the best municipalities to live in the state.
Thank you, Councillor Kleinert. Would the seconder like to speak? No. Are there any movers? Are there any speakers against the motion? No. Are there?
Can I speak to the motion?
Yes. You'd wish to. Well, you wish to speak.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, Councillor Conlon.
Actually, I'd like to move to amend the motion so that Part E of the motion reads, note that during 2019-20 to 21 financial years, officers review the community grant program policy and guidelines and refine the objectives of the program in order to reflect new council priorities. So it's just the addition of community grant program policy after review in Part E.
Adding 4 words.
It's adding 4 words.
So officers review the grant guidelines and refine. Could you repeat that, Councillor Conlon? And I'll.
Officers review the community grant program.
The community grants
program.
Grant program. Yeah. Policy. Yep. And then
guidelines.
Guidelines. Okay. So that it would read. Note that during the 2019, 2020 and 2020-21 financial years, officers review the community grant program policy and guidelines and refine the objectives of the programs in order to reflect new council priorities.
Correct.
Yeah. Would the mover like to accept that amendment?
I'm happy to accept it.
You're happy to accept the amendment? Excellent.
Seconded.
Would the seconder like to, happy to accept the amendment? Yeah. Okay. All right.
That's all I have to say.
That's all you have to say? Yep. All right. Okay. Well, in that case, are there any other speakers? Any speakers against the amendment? No? Accordingly, I'll put the motion.
Yeah, because we've already accepted the amendment.
We have. So, excellent. We have to vote to accept the amendment? No? Because they've been accepted. Sorry. Excellent. So, all those in favour of the motion? Excellent. Motion carried. Welcome back, Councillor Haynes.
Thank you.
Right, we now move to item number 11, which is City Services. 11.1, Notice of Intention to Lease 26 to 42A Coleman Road, Warrandyte South. Do I have a mover? Councillor McLeish.
Madam Mayor, I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Galbally. Would the mover like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to see this go forward. It means we'll be renewing a lease and continuing an income stream for council by leasing land, a small plot of land in this reserve for a mobile phone tower, which is already in place.
Thank you. Would the seconder like to speak? No. Are there any speakers against the motion?
I have a question, Madam Mayor.
You have a question? Yes, Councillor Chen.
Madam Mayor, the report says that the current lease has a rent review of fixed 5% annually increase, but the proposed new lease has a with a commencing rent of $30,000 plus GST with annual rent adjustment based on CPI. My question is, has officers conducted any benchmarking in regards to the rent review method? Thank you.
I'll direct that question to the Director of City Services, Mr Harrison.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the answer to that question is yes, we have. There's less telecom companies in the game these days, and the ability to negotiate the same sorts of deals as we have in the past have been diminished, and that's the case for all councils.
Thank you. Councillor Zaparopoulos, do you have a question?
I note that the new lease will not contain an early termination clause, but I'm just concerned a little bit about creating a precedent not only for this property but for other properties to keep on coming in saying we're having difficulties. Could you reduce our rental? What prevents the company to come back and ask 3 years later for another reduction? Is that possible?
I'll direct the question to the Director of City Services, Mr Harrison.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that under any contract arrangement, one party can approach another for a change. It's a case of both parties having to agree to that change, but the fact we haven't got the early termination clause in there was another negotiated outcome facing the reality of the current market and the supply and demand situation that exists.
Thank you. All right. As there's no further questions, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. Next item, 11.2, recreational land, changes in lieu of rates, charges in lieu of rates, 2019 to 2020. Do I have a mover? Councillor Goff.
Move on the council recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kleinert. Would the mover like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just quickly, basically when we go through all of our properties, there will be some exempt properties and all the rest, but one sort of area of property is a lot of open space areas or recreation areas actually, and that mainly includes a lot of the tennis clubs and bowling clubs, and I think our hockey facility fit into that. So instead of charging them rates, we're going to say that they're not going to pay any rates. There are 2 clubs. There used to be 3. There used to be the golf course, Eastern Golf Course, but now that has gone. But we still have the Venator Club, which has sports fields and its club rooms and things there, and also the Yarra Valley Country Club, which is a golf course. And indeed, we're not charging them rates on the full value of their property. However, we do have a charge in lieu of rates, and that's outlined there for what the charges are going to be for this year.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Would the seconder like to speak? Are there any speakers against the motion? Accordingly, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. 11.3, General Valuation 2019 Return. Do I have a mover? Councillor Chen.
Madam Mayor, I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Conlon. Would the mover like to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Before 1st of January this year, and all property values were determined by independent professional valuer appointed by a council or state valuer general, and all properties were rated every 2 years. And now the valuation is conducted by Valuer General Victoria every year. Manningham has now received the accreditation, certification, and the result has shown an average of 13.15% decrease in capital improved value for all rateable properties because of the weakening property market. And residential property has an average decrease in CIV of 14.5%. On the contrary, because of the demand for commercial investment, Manningham relatively small number of commercial and industry property has an average increase of 4.6%. Madam Mayor, the general valuation will be the basis for rating for the next year, so Council therefore needs to adopt the return of the general valuation as presented in our agenda. So, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Would the seconder like to speak? Councillor Conlon.
Yeah. Just to add that despite all our property values going down, that doesn't mean our rates go down because of the averaging system that we use. So hopefully no one's getting their hopes up that their rates are going to drop by 20%, even though their property has. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Are there any speakers against the motion? Are there any further speakers? Accordingly, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. Item number 12, shared services. 12.1, procurement policy 2019 review. Do I have a mover? Councillor Kleinert.
That the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Conlon. Would the mover like to speak?
Nothing further.
Would the seconder like to speak? No? Any speakers? Any speakers against the motion? No? Accordingly, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Excellent. Motion carried. 12.2, adoption of 10-year financial plan 2019 and 20 to 2028-29. Do I have a mover? Councillor McLeish.
Madam Mayor, I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Haynes. Would the mover like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, we are looking at our long-term view of council finances. This is a modelling exercise at one level. It's an opportunity for council to look at its financial position in the medium term, to assess it against the various performance indicators that are laid out for us by the Victorian Auditor General, and to look forward at the financial sustainability of council. And this particular report gives us a picture which is a very solid outcome for our council. It shows that we are sustainable as a council and that the hard work that's been done by the staff and the councillors in adjusting the financial position of council are paying off. It shows a positive situation where in the 9 or 10 indicators that the VGA lay out for us, all bar one of them are met, and the one that isn't, the target's 100%, and we track just above and below as you go through it. There's a couple of years where the forecast says we might be 1% below the 100. So we are essentially on target all the way through for all of the indicators. That's exactly what we would hope to see as a council if we are prudent and we have a well-run operation. We can also see that the benefits of some of the policy changes that council has adopted in recent years, such as implementing developer contributions, where developers are paying contributions to council towards a fund which builds and allows us to invest in open space on behalf of the community and assets within the open space. The benefits of that fund flow through into the bottom line in the forecast years, and that is one of the key things that is helping our financial sustainability going forward. In all, I think it's a very good outcome. It is in the end a model. It gives us a guide as to the direction that council is going, and we are going in a sound and sustainable direction. We'll be in a position of having no debt, which I'll talk about a little bit later when it comes to the budget, and I would commend this excellent outcome to the councillors and thank the staff for the great contribution they've made in helping us as councillors build this particular outcome.
Thank you, Councillor McLeish. Would the seconder like to speak?
Just to add from my reading and perspective of it, I'm very happy with a lot of the things that are in there, including the bottom line, which is, as Councillor McLeish has said, for over the 10-year program, the long-term view is to have no loans. And anyone that knows anything about the way I think of money, definitely don't get into debt. And also the Victorian Auditor General's bottom line on this is also that the financial sustainability risk is extremely low across the whole 10 years. So thank you to the officers for that. So that's why I support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Are there any speakers against the motion? Are there any further speakers? Accordingly, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. Item 12.3, the 2019-20 annual budget incorporating the 4-year strategic resource plan, 2019 to 2023, adoption and declaration of rates and charges. Do I have a mover? Councillor McLeish.
Madam Mayor, I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Goff. Thank you. Would the mover like to speak?
I would, thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the final stage in our budget process. We began this journey as councillors and staff about 6-7 months ago, when we began when the councillors began thinking about the budget. I know that there are quite a number of the staff were thinking about it well before then. But this is the final stage in the process. We've had a 4-week community consultation program, and what we're doing this evening is taking that feedback, considering it, and we are adopting the final budget and strategic resource plan for the year ahead. We received around 200 submissions from the community related to this particular budget, 90% of which related to a request for differential rates for retirement villages. This is something that we see year on year at council, where the retirement villages continually come to us and ask for this, and the recommendation that we're considering this evening does not agree to their request. The reality is, from my perspective, that to provide a discount to 1,200 ratepayers who live in retirement villages would be to give them preferential treatment. It would leave the remaining ratepayers in the city with even higher rates. In our city, we have over 24,000 residents who are above the age of 65. There are 3,500 unemployed people. There are 5,800 people needing assistance due to a disability. All of these people live in properties in our city. All of them are impacted by rates. Why should we give a discount to a select group of 1,200 ratepayers whom we happen to know where they live? Why should they get a discount when all of the other ratepayers would get an increase, including all of those above pension age? I think it's over 20% of those in our community are above the age of 65. I'm afraid I can't justify having higher rates for all of those people and lower rates for 1,200 ratepayers in retirement villages. So we thank them for their submission. We've given it careful consideration, but I can't see a way of supporting it. We've had a number of others. We've actually had some submissions thanking council for the things that we've been doing in the community. The proposed improvements to the Main Yarra Trail is an example of that. We've received quite a number of submissions in relation to funding of promises made in the federal election, and as was discussed earlier this evening, it would be very, very, very unlikely that council would not go ahead with projects that are funded by grants. It hasn't happened in the time that I've been on council, and in the more than a decade other people have been around here. So I look forward to seeing those grants actually turn into cash, and when they turn into cash, I'm sure we'll have a look at our budget in the mid-year review. Hopefully we have the cash by then and we can consider it. There's a couple of other changes in the draft budget since it was considered. There's an increase in developer contributions being budgeted. The federal assistance grants have come in early because of the election timing. Doesn't really change the outcome. It's just changes in the numbers about when the money arrives. So all in all, the budget is very close to being similar And what we really need to talk about in our budget are the key things that we actually are delivering for our community. We're delivering $50 million in a capital works program in the next 12 months, $16.7 million put into roads, $5.75 million in drains, $3.2 million in footpaths, $5.4 million in parks and open space, including, importantly, $3.45 million for soccer at Petty's Reserve, $1.24 million for Rycheck's Reserve Management Plan, $1 million in the Baronia Reserve, $400,000 to the Warrandyte Lions Park. There's a long list, councillors, of where we are investing in our community for its benefit. And I've heard some talk about the need to have lighting towers improved at reserves. Well, there's a long list of reserves all over Manningham who want their light towers improved. We can't do them all.
And want light towers.
Some of them just want light towers, exactly. The reality is that there is a priority here. One of the things in this management plan in this budget is to put some funds, not this coming financial year, but the following financial year, into a sporting club whose club rooms is a pine log cabin and its female change rooms is a 2-cubicle girls' toilet. That's the standard of some of the facilities we're seeking to improve in our community. And we can't necessarily go around and change every sporting club's lighting towers when they insist on it. There is a sequence of these things that when they happen, there are plenty of clubs out there who are playing football and cricket and soccer on ovals that are substandard in terms of lighting, but when the lighting isn't good, they don't use the facility. They use the facility when it's safe to do so, and that's what I hope the athletics clubs will be doing. The final point I'd like to make is...
For which you're out of time, so can I have a motion to extend time? Thank you, Councillor Goff. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kleinert, I'll put the motion. Motion carried. Continue, Councillor McLeish.
Another important thing that we're doing here in this budget this year is we are paying out the one debt we have as a council. There was $7.3 million that was taken out as a loan in 2012. That loan was taken out to meet a call for the Defined Benefit Super Fund under the GFC. It was something the new council at that time was met with, and they took a decision to borrow the money to allow the repayment to happen over time into the future. And that is what we've been doing. We've been putting money aside towards repaying that loan ever since. We now have accumulated the cash and we're going to pay out the loan in this coming financial year in November. But even more than that, this council, particularly this council, has been very prudent because we've also been putting further money aside towards the next call because we think it's prudent that we actually have the money put aside for when the call comes because market conditions will change and we believe that the money should be put aside whilst the employees are here at the council being paid. And that's what we've done. So we have now, by the time this budget is complete, we'll have reached another $6.5 million put aside towards the next call on the defined super benefit scheme when you would expect such a call if there is a significant financial downturn, and it's a hedge against that, and it provides a solid cash base for the council for its day-to-day operations in the meantime. So I'm very pleased with the quality of the budget this council has been part of. It's built on some very sound foundations that were recommended to us by the amazing staff that we have working on this. Thank you, Kevin and team, and the executive who have supported that. And I look forward to seeing this budget put through, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McLeish. Would the seconder like to speak? Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'll start off by thanking the organisation and all the councils and everybody around for the work that they've put into coming up with the budget. A very good budget for Manningham and one that keeps us on the right track of red, which is very important. Indeed, the expenditure of at least 33% of the rate revenue from our community being spent on capital works items is very, very important to ensure that we're not spending more than we should. And I often question this, and more than we should, on employing people and doing other things that aren't necessarily building infrastructure and that for our community. because our ratepayers, which are our householders and owners of land, are the people that pay this tax, and they want to see, quite rightly, the amenity and the facilities of our area improve with that money. And indeed, quite a lot of money is targeted for areas, and again, I see it was over nearly $6 million, I think it was in for drainage. There are a number of other areas that we're putting in our pavilions, and I think this year was the female-friendly sports stuff at 300. So yeah. So I think there was 300 and something thousand, I forget, within the female-friendly, and that is a cost of us to make sure that our sporting facilities are catering for all children, and indeed a great program to refurbish those particular areas. Unfortunately, Madam Mayor, we have to watch out, because very soon, perhaps, on some areas, we're going to have to get more money because NELA or NELP or whatever are going to, I was going to use a word to start with R, but I won't, are going to take away our facilities, and we don't know whether they're actually going to replace them. And indeed, that's very concerning for every ratepayer to have that occur to them. But I do want to just touch on another point, in that we're passing this particular budget, and Councillor McLeish did touch on it, and I'm wondering whether a motion following this, or an item at the end of this here, we don't really do it in this, so perhaps it could be a motion in the end, to sort of refer the federal government grant projects to the mid-year budget review. Now, the reason I ask that we actually have that motion is that it will indicate to the community that we are taking it all very seriously, and that there is a process involved, and although we've had representation that we're going to get it, I know the federal government had some tax cuts a few years ago that never came through to people, so things may not. And really we need that funding before we should make an allocation of money, because it's very important that we use our community's money in the year that we said we're going to spend it, and not just keep it and use it for the next year. It's very important that if we've got that money, we spend it on our community. And often we will have to come to a mid-year rate review, and when we do that, any monies that haven't been spent in that area, or that looks as if the project's slowing down, are reconsidered, and there are usually there's quite an amount of money often in our mid-year budget review, and nothing will change this year. In fact, I did go and talk to our manager of finance about, well, will there be money, and usually at that particular time of the year is that we can reallocate at that particular time, and then we can be very accurate for our community of the money that we've got and the money we're spending, and when we do get that money, to equal a grant program to come through and look at it there, and I think that this should be one of the priorities. So I'm asking a question here, in essence, is whether we want to put an indication that those projects haven't been forgotten in our budget, all right, because we sort of know they're coming up, but we can't actually put them in there yet, or it might be better as a subsequent little...
A supplementary motion, Councillor Goff. So are you asking...
Well, I'm just asking which you think would be the better one.
I think that's a matter of judgment on behalf of the councillor. It's a supplementary.
Yeah,
yep.
I think supplementary might be better, because it
All
doesn't confuse it with our budget.
With our budget, okay.
And it then doesn't come part of that budget.
Okay, so you're foreshadowing a supplementary motion. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Councillor Goff.
Councillors, it is there's a great celebration.
You are out of time.
And I think at the time we'll be publishing to the community the infrastructure and everything else that we're putting in for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Are there any speakers against the motion? Are there any further speakers? Councillor Haynes.
Madam Mayor, I'm certain everybody's very happy that I'm not speaking against the motion, and I'm also not speaking for amendments and alterations to them. I support the things that have been said around the table here today. I have a couple of questions. One of them is, in the last year's budget of the 18-19, there was a line item of $300,000 for Schramm's Cottage for this coming year, and in the 19-20 there seems to be nothing within the budget that states to do with that. So can you please just clarify that question for me?
I'll put that question to the Acting Director of Shared Services, Mr Eyre.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, there is a line item, Waldo Precinct Master Plan. So there's $5 million allocated over 7 years, and the building works form part of that, and the $350,000 worth of carry forward funds form part of that $5 million. So yes, it is in the budget.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just a subsequent question. And so can I ask where within those 4 years that is allocated, please? So we could consider it in the mid-year process and get me some clarification as to where it's at.
I'll direct that question again to the Acting Director of Shared Services, Mr Eyre.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So those building works are currently in the plan over year 5 and 6, so 23, 24, 24, 25. But I guess officers are working with all the stakeholders in terms of the scope of works and time and so forth. So we'll continue to work with them on that front.
Thank you for that clarification. And just one thing also about the budget that's actually quite positive that I also noticed was the Harold Link project in the 18-19 budget was for the 21-22, but for this year they have brought forward $52,000 for this coming year for the Harold Link to be able to look at that. So I want to thank the officers for bringing that forward with the submission that was brought from the public. And I'm hoping that over the 6-month review we also consider the enforcement. I thank the officers for the work that they've been doing in that to do with further enforcement and to keep our city clean and try and help with the amenity and also the local laws to do with parking. They are things that are constantly concerns within the community, and I'm hoping that through the mid-year review that we can bring some of those costs that are needed to be able to help with the amenity and the cleanliness of our city continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Are there any further speakers? Accordingly, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. Councillor Goff.
Madam Mayor, my subsequent motion is that council refer the recent federal government's grants projects to the mid-year budget review. Thank you. Budget 1920. Thank you.
Yes, for the 1920 mid-year.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Do I have a seconder to that motion? Councillor Zaparopoulos. Would the mover like to speak?
No.
No? Would the seconder like to speak? Are there any speakers against the motion? Are there any other speakers? Accordingly, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 13, Chief Executive Officer. 13.1, Documents for Sealing. Do I have a mover? Councillor Conlon.
So I'd like to move that the alternative motion be adopted, please.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Oh.
Councillor Haynes. Would the mover like to speak?
No, thank you.
Would the seconder like to speak? No? I'll put the motion then. All those in favour? Motion carried. 13.2, Record of Assembly of Councillors. Do I have a mover? Councillor Chen. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kleinert. Would the mover like to speak? Would the seconder like to speak? Accordingly, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. 13.3, Appointment of Authorised Officer, Planning and Environment Act 1987. Do I have a mover?
Yes, I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Galbally. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Conlon, thank you. Would the mover like to speak?
No.
Would the seconder like to speak?
No, thank you.
Accordingly, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Yes, motion carried. Urgent business, number 14. There are no items for urgent business. Item number 15, councillors' question time. Do we have a question? Councillor Kleinert.
Actually, Madam Mayor, I've got two. Number one,
Yep.
Madam Mayor, are you aware that Manningham City Council won the Gold Award at the ARA Awards for annual reporting?
Yes, I am aware, and I think we've won that award many, many times over.
Many times.
Yes, so it's excellent annual reports. They
Another
are
stellar effort.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, very
Oh, they're even better.
Let me tell
Yeah.
you, very
ARA
similar,
awards.
but much, much better. Okay, and then the second question, Madam Mayor, are you aware about the article in the Sunday Age on 16th of June stating that 3 councils have joined forces to oppose the North East Link?
Well, yes, Councillor Kleinert, I am aware of that article, and on behalf of the council, I say that we too are about ensuring that we get the best possible outcome for our community. We, both at the councillor and officer level, have proactively been working hard on this project for the last 2 years. And we've been collaborating with all of the 3 councils that were mentioned in the article on projects including Bulleen Park, Coonung Creek and the Yarra River Corridor. And while we share common concerns, we do have some significantly different views relating to Manningham's public open space. And where appropriately, we will continue to work with other councils, but most importantly, we will keep fighting for our community. I note that the article states that the 3 councils made a joint submission to the Federal Minister not to approve the North East Link project under the Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act. Well, we had already made our submission to the Federal Minister way back in May. So can I say that as a council, we are on top of all the issues and we will continue to fight for our community. Our legal representatives will present our case at the panel hearings, providing detailed information and robust data that highlights the specific impacts and needs of our community. Thank you for your question. Accordingly, any other questions? Councillor, questions? I will then go to number 16, which is confidential reports. Do I have a mover?
Yes.
Councillor McLeish.
Madam Mayor, I move that Council close the meeting to the public pursuant to sections 89(2)D of the Local Government Act 1989 to consider items 16.1 and 16.2 concerning contractual matters.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Galbally. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. Thank you. I'll now adjourn the meeting for some 5 minutes to allow the officers to prepare the room.